Thomas and the Treasure. Rendon Docks is a very busy place. Engines bring goods trucks. Cranes unload cargo. And ships bring visitors. One day, Thomas had to collect a very important visitor, the Admiral. Thomas was to take the Admiral to open the new Maritime Museum. It was a museum all about the sea. Salty was excited. The Admiral is always looking for the lost pirate treasure of Sodor, he said.
Pirate?
Scoffed James. Treasure? Huffed Emily.
Yes, said Salty, but no one has ever found it.
Salty told them that there were 3 clues.
First, find the eagle of the mountains. Its beak will point to the clouds, not in the sky. Then, those clouds will lead to the skull and crossbones. And there, you'll find the treasure, me hearties.
Eagle? Clouds? Skull and crossbones? Tooted Thomas excitedly. I'm sure I could solve those clues. Emily and James thought it was all nonsense, and that made Thomas cross. Just then, the Admiral arrived. Thomas puffed off to collect him. The Admiral had to be at the museum in time for the grand opening. Thomas felt very proud to be taking him. What if I arrive with the Admiral and a chest of pirate treasure? Thought Thomas. That would show James and Emily. So Thomas chuffed onto the track away from the museum and set off into the mountains to look for the first clue. How could an eagle point the way? Wondered Thomas. How could clouds not be in the sky? And Thomas knew he had never seen a skull and crossbones anywhere. Later, Emily puffed towards Thomas. There's no such thing as treasure, she laughed. But Thomas paid no attention. The eagle of the mountains had to be somewhere. Then he saw something wonderful. A mountain that looked like an eagle. Thomas was very excited. I've found the first clue, he hooted happily. Now I'll find the next one. The eagle's head would point the way. Suddenly Thomas saw a track leading in the direction of the stone beak.
Where are you going, Thomas?
Wheezed James. To find the clouds that are not in the sky, whistled Thomas.
How silly,
snorted James. But Thomas didn't mind. He knew the clouds were here somewhere. And then he saw them. The clouds not in the sky were reflections of clouds in the lake. I've found the second clue, wheezed Thomas excitedly. One more and I'll find the treasure. Thomas looked for a long time, and he forgot all about the Admiral. Then Harold arrived with the Fat Controller.
The Admiral is late for the opening of the museum,
he boomed crossly.
You have been unreliable,
added the Fat Controller.
Harold will now take the Admiral to the museum.
Thomas felt very foolish. If only he hadn't spent so much time looking for the clues.
Fancy believing in a silly old story,
laughed Harold. Everyone thinks I'm silly, huffed Thomas. but I still believe there's treasure. Thomas puffed sadly along the track away from the lake. Thomas had never been this way before, so he didn't know where it would lead. It led him into a tunnel. At last, Thomas came to the end of the line. He was surprised. There were all the other engines, and there was the admiral.
I am very proud to declare the new Maritime Museum open, he announced.
Everyone cheered and whistled. Then Thomas saw something even more exciting. "That's it," Thomas tooted. "The pirate treasure's right here."
Don't be silly, huffed Emily.
"Everyone knows it's just a silly old story," snorted James. But Thomas knew he was right. "I followed all the clues," he puffed proudly.
Then you have found the skull and crossbones,
cried the admiral. Everyone was surprised.
Someone, get me a shovel.
The admiral was so excited he dug for the pirate treasure himself. He found a big wooden chest. Inside it was the pirate treasure.
The pirate treasure will be the most important thing in the whole museum, said the admiral. Thomas, boomed the Fat Controller, you have made this the best opening ever.
Thomas was very proud. He had been right to believe in Salty's story. He had found the treasure.